Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Worlds Apart, Words Together, where best friends share laughter, stories, and an unbreakable bond. And we have a guest today. Hello, Robbie.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. And yourself?
Yeah, been pretty good. It was a beautiful day out today, sunshine. I ran outside, and that was hard, but
Yeah.
we managed. Um, yeah, Would you like to start by introducing yourself to our listeners?
Yeah, of course. You did such a wonderful job with the bio that I read. I said, oh, because I didn't give a good bio because I was coming back from out of town, so I didn't have much time to type it on. I was like, okay, let's give her something. But then you dressed it up. You dressed it up. I said, oh, she wrote about myself better than me.
Yeah.
But just a quick bio. I'm 24 years old. Graduated from Littlewood University, which is in St. Charles, Missouri. Graduated with a bachelor's in sociology, a minor African American studies, and a minor in education. Currently, I have always worked for the most part within higher education, and currently I work at Washington University within the University of Advancement, which is pretty much the fundraising segment of the university.
Okay. Um, yeah, so you kind of told a little bit about yourself and your background. And one of the reasons why we're also having you today, because this month it is obviously Black History Month. And I feel like, especially in the Netherlands, that's not something we really think about because the Black history isn't as prevalent as in the United States, I feel like. Um, but yeah, like you can probably identify really
Yeah,
well with that.
yeah.
So kind of to start off with that conversation. So what is something about your background and your upbringing or any other significant influences in your life that have shaped you into the man that you are today?
Absolutely. So, of course, being black in America, I remember, of course, being growing up in Ferguson. The first thing that comes to people's mind is Michael Brown, the incident of the police officer shooting Michael Brown, and
Mm-hmm.
it turned into not only a national movement but an international movement because it gained international notoriety, and it happened right like maybe 6 minutes away from where I live, so
Oh
very
wow.
close. So that's the probably the first time that I really hello. There's somebody here. Oh, okay. Okay. Can I move?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to turn my camera off. I know we're recording. But I'm going to turn my camera off and then I'm going to go into this other office.
Okay.
Okay. Bear with me. Okay. Sorry.
There you are again.
I didn't want to do it in my office because it's darker in here and the lighting was a little bit better in there, but we'll do it here. We'll do it here. We'll be all
That's
right.
okay. Whatever works.
Right. Okay. But like I was saying, do I need to restart or we're good?
No, you can go ahead and
Okay, but definitely. So that was perhaps my first time really understanding to the real height of racial tensions that is I don't want to use the word popular, but it's very much present within American culture, and that just goes back
yeah.
to slavery, and then the upbringing from slavery to 1965 of freedom for enslaved blacks, and then we talk about segregation, and then we move up the timeline, and race is always riddled and really soiled within American culture. So growing up, and then connecting and really learning about African American history, especially
Hmm.
within me majoring in sociology. The focus in which I've always enjoyed was the study of racial theory and racial aspects or elements, and how can I put it, and how that is seen throughout the culture, but not only the culture,
Hmm.
but within laws that were made to inhibit the progression of Black people with as well, and some other minority groups we could say as well. I don't know
Yeah.
if I just answered your question. I hope I did, but that's
I
really,
mean, kinda, yeah. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
because those experiences and the choices obviously that we make get us to a point in life and you're here right now. And if you didn't make those choices when you were younger, you probably would have been in a very different spot right now. So for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. It really boiled down for me the study of African American history, and really, we say African American history, but truthfully, African American history is so much American history that is pretty much interloped into one. Um,
Yeah,
so, learning the realities of what the country has done and what has taken place really sparked my interest in racial and the racial segment of study.
yeah.
And speaking of just like the history, what role models or historical figures from Black history have influenced you the most, and a little bit of why they have?
And I know one of the questions, black men specifically, to Washington, D.C., the capital, on the mall, where all the presidents get inaugurated, the inauguration. He called them there
Yeah,
to atone for perhaps the wrongdoings that many of us have done, and then to say that we're striving to do better and to improve ourselves individually. And as you improve yourself individually, then ultimately you improve the community because self improvement is the basis for community development. If you
I
want to
like
improve the
that.
community, that begins with the individuals. So that's what he was bringing. And not only did he get 1 million men, but records show that it was 1.8 million, almost 2 million men had showed up on the mall. And when you hear the various stories that go into it on how it was peaceful, there was no fighting. In fact, the park ranger or the head of the park ranger said that the mall was so clean upon everyone's leaving that he was very surprised about that because usually you get almost 2 million people in one area. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of trash left behind, but no trash was left up because the brothers were instructed to pick up trash. And as you came, it was clean, leave as it was clean, and just the atmosphere. I wasn't present, but just going based off the stories and the historical accounts, it was just a
Yeah.
beautiful event. So hearing things like that, and then also seeing the work that he would do, going throughout the country on a Stop the Killing tour, speaking. He's given tens of thousands of lectures about the improvement of not only Black people but Indigenous people, Asian people,
Mhm.
Hispanic people, white people, wherever the case may be. So definitely an inspiration for me.
Well, and tying it back to that, what you're saying, because the people who have read the blog and the introduction about you also probably read that you yourself are giving inspirational talks or speeches to groups. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Because I'm curious of what that would entail.
I do. I do. I do speak in religious houses, but I have had the opportunity to go into the community. Sometimes we knock door to door. And of course, I think I put it within some of the things we do. We may bring clothes, we do bring food, but we also give them a wonderful word of encouragement as well. I've been to my high school, McClure High School in
Mhm.
Ferguson, and I've spoken to them on several occasions. And then I've just interacted with young people any chance that I can get, but particularly I have spoken in high schools. And it's
And
been
then
about Black history
would
too.
you what would you be talking about mostly?
Black history for the most part. But
Okay.
really, the way that you do it, or the way I've done, I should say, you speak about Black history in a way where a person feels empowered because, candidly, many of the times when we speak about Black history, it's always centered around enslavement, which is not,
Mhm.
that's not the totality of Black people, of course not. So we segment from that and we speak about the inventors, the improvements that Black people have brought about, not just within America, but nationally and internationally, ultimately. So when you put it in that frame of mind, you speak about Black history in that frame of mind of the improvement and what's the word I'm looking for? The great things, I suppose you could say, that Black
Yeah.
people have done internationally. Then people walk away and say, "Oh, I feel so much better than just talking about the enslavement of my ancestors, but I see the improvements and the great things and the accomplishments that we've done globally. Now I feel better." And usually, typically, when I speak within a high school, that's what it's centered around.
I don't know if you can hear it, but they have a freaking leaf blower outside my door, and it's so bad.
Well, if you need me to ask another question, I can. But
No. What I was hoping it was gonna pass. What are some important milestones or achievements in history that you believe deserve more recognition outside of just like the more common ones?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the question I went into too. That Million Man March, that Million Man March, definitely. And I'll say this too. There was a march on Washington that Dr. Martin Luther King had done, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful. But the thing about that one is that it was sanctioned by the U.S. government. So if you actually do look at videos of the March on Washington, there was many officers guiding people on where to go. So it was a very, I suppose, for lack of a better term, I'm going to say a tame meeting that was sanctioned by the powers above. But the difference between that, and it was phenomenal. I'm not discrediting it at all. But the differences between the Million Man March and the March on Washington is that the Million Man March was more of an independent thing. It was not sanctioned by anybody. Of course, there was particular procedures and paperwork and documents that you had to fill out, but it wasn't sanctioned by the U.S. government. So that was the biggest difference. But if you go into the history books and here in America, you do not hear about the Million Man March whatsoever. You'll hear about the March on Washington, but you will not hear about the Million Man March. Another event that comes to mind, I'm trying to think, and I had one in my head. If I can revisit this question as that other event comes back, that would be wonderful.
Of course, yeah. We are very flexible today.
Okay.
Um, so when you are talking to those young people
Hmm.
and kind of guiding them, showing them how, yeah, the empowerment of your history rather than only the enslavement, because that's, like you said, it's a lot of what people think of when they think of the Black community, unfortunately. And what is something that you relate you give back to the younger generations to aspire them to make a difference or pursue any passions that they may have?
Oh, that's a wonderful question. One thing I wanted to mention too, I've spoken in prisons as well. I didn't mention that. I
Have
forgot to put that in
you?
the bio. I've
Oh
spoken
wow.
in maximum security prison, which is in Jefferson City, which is the what does it say? I don't want to say the headquarters of Missouri, but what is it called? The capital of Missouri. Spoken in Jefferson City, and I've spoken about two times in another prison called Bowling Green, which is about an hour and a half or an hour and 15 minutes away from St. Louis. And it's a
Okay.
lot of young people. You'd be surprised. A lot of young people around my age. I'm 24, which is relatively young still, but who are in the prisons. But nevertheless, to hone in on your question, one thing I definitely always bring in is how everyone, and nobody is exempt from this, everyone has a unique skill, gift, or talent within themselves. And it doesn't matter who you are, but if you analyze yourself and study yourself, you will be able to see within the study of self what is that gift, skill, or talent that you're naturally inclined for. And it's so
Mhm.
interesting because many of us have it, but we exert the gift, skill, and talent so effortlessly. We do it with such ease that we don't really realize that, man, I'm pretty good at this thing. But you do it so commonly and so easily that you don't fully comprehend that, man, you're very gifted or she's very talented in this one thing. So that's another segment that I try to teach or speak to the younger generation that
Mhm.
really study yourself because within that, when you identify that gift, skill, talent, whatever it is, then you can hone into an occupation. And now you're not just working and you're just working tirelessly to get a paycheck. But if you're working within your purpose and what is naturally within you, now you're happy with your job. And if you enjoy your job, you don't really work a day in your life.
That is true. Are you happy with your job?
I am, and I do get a degree of self happiness. Though my job centers around what's the word I'm looking for? Um, Scheduling meetings with alumni. But the next stepping stone in which I will be taking is a gift officer, and those people travel to various regions. So they may travel to Chicago or New
Mhm.
York or Las Vegas, wherever the case may be, and then they solicit funds from people. And I think I would be very happy within that job because now I get to hone in on the skill that I do have of speech because you have to talk, you have to be fluent in speech. And then also the construction and building of relationship, interpersonal relationship building, which while at Lindenwood, I found that I can do pretty well.
As being the president of the student, what
Student
was it
body
again?
and the
Student
Black
body.
Student Union.
Yeah, you were pretty powerful.
I was popular. I was powerful. Yeah, I had some pull, but it wasn't like that.
I felt like everybody knew you
And
around.
then I guess the last kind of like question to like round off kind of like what we had set in place is how do you personally celebrate Black History Month and what does it all kind of mean to you?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. A lot of people don't know that Black History Month actually started as a week. And I'm trying to think of the week, but it was a week in February and it coincided with Abraham Lincoln's birthday. The founder of Black History Month, or at the time it was a week, was Dr. Carter G. Woodson. A lot of people don't know this history, but it started out as a week, and then I think I want to say within the 70s it became a month. And what I took from that when I first learned that is that Black history, we may see it as a scope of, okay, it's a small thing, okay, small, week, and now it's going to a month. So now the scope is bigger. We see it as bigger, and really it should continue to improve such as that. Because truthfully, as I spoke about earlier, Black history isn't just an independent thing. Black history is American history because Black people have been here since the first people have came, or however you want to put it, to America. Black people have definitely been here since the inception, truthfully, of America. So you can't separate the two. You can't separate the two. You can tell the truth about the two, and then you'll see, how Black people are so interwoven within American history and the bringing up of American history. So that's the way I prefer to look at Black History Month.
Hmm.
Though I see it as history. Period.
Yeah.
And the celebration piece, I suppose you could say, is I like studying Black people or the improvements of minority groups that they've contributed to America, and just the progression that we've brought about internationally.
So one thing that for me is always, for some people, this could be a very sensitive topic, of course, but to me, it's always like I wonder how people of a different color experience the world just because I'm very white. And a lot of people would say that is privilege, but to me, it doesn't matter what color, where you from, everybody should have the same rights and whatnot. So I was just wondering, like, what have you experienced in your lifetime that wasn't the same as somebody of a white color, for example?
Repeat the first part one more time. You cut off a little bit.
So, like, what are significant like times in your life that you notice, like, hey, this is different than what I've seen with someone who is white?
Oh, yep, yep. You spoke about privilege a little bit earlier. What it reminded me of, I heard somebody say the saying, privilege is when, there's two fish swimming, and then one fish say, man, the water feels nice today. And then the other fish is like, what water are you talking about? They're totally oblivious to a condition of another person in which they're feeling. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That doesn't make a person bad, but, it is there present. Um, but I suppose the first time that I really came into knowledge of, oh man, Black people have a pretty bad plight of discrimination, is when I would notice, and some people may say this is subjective. I would notice, and then when I, grew up a little bit later and started reading about discrimination and prejudice, I said,
Hmm.
oh, this is a thing because it's research and it's been quantified and shown through various research institutes. But nevertheless, when I felt like I was being watched a little harder rather than maybe white counterparts. Or in fact, I would speak to maybe white counterparts and maybe speak about things that would happen to me within stores. And then they would say, no, no, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen to me. Or no, I'm not really familiar with that. And then growing up later and then reading about how store owners do watch Black people many times when they go into a store a little bit harder than any other groups because they feel like Black people are a higher risk of stealing or doing something nefarious. Um, yeah, I think that was really the first time, and then I guess the biggest event. especially was the Mike Brown situation. You know,
Yeah.
just because of the sheer gravity of it all that you couldn't ignore it. And then of course the other shooters that would follow up, most recently maybe that comes to mind is George Floyd, but you
Yeah.
know there's countless, truthfully.
Sorry, you cut out as well, so I don't know where you left off. But one one
Okay.
thing that I definitely noticed, because you said like people tend to think of like, oh well, black people are more likely to be involved in crime or this or that. And I took criminal justice at Lindenwood, and our professor, I don't know his name right now, but he also mentioned like, yes, black people tend to commit more crimes, but that's also because society puts that on that group. They tend to live in poor neighborhoods because of the benefits that they don't receive and other people do
Hmm.
receive. So it's like we're basically setting up that system for that group to fall into that pattern of criminality, which I think is no bueno.
Yeah.
Sorry, you
But
also cut off
I'll,
again.
I'll
But
speak
yeah.
on that. I'll speak on that. What it reminds me of is race theory. When I was for a short time, I majored in sociology, master's degree. And one thing, that I was looking for, I couldn't get into an institute because there wasn't one local, but was race theory. And pretty much what that is that if, and a lot of, especially in America, they're boycotting it and saying, oh, race theory, that's not a good thing. But pretty much the basis of race theory is that if we have these institutions, and even if we were to evict, for lack of a better term, or erase race from the equation, the laws that are set up would still incriminate a particular group of people.
Hmm.
And so I found that very interesting that when you look at it, it is that. And you can see many of the laws that have been written, you know, it puts black people in such a predicament where, yes, when you are in more of an impoverished state, you are going to commit more crime. It doesn't matter what group of people that is. It can be
No.
Latinos, it can be Asians, Caucasians. If you put them and you have them in a lower socioeconomic status, they're going to commit more crime because they don't want to see themselves starving or themselves really needing basic human needs. So that's what it's going to boil down to. One of the things that it reminds me of when you see the wealth gap of white people and black people here in America, the housing market, the housing discrimination, what is called redlining, of how black people could not buy homes rather, in good neighborhoods where white people were. They were redlined. You could not get a loan to do that. You could only stay in this small box that the bank system would say that you can stay here, and then all the black people would stay here. So now all the crime is now concentrated in this one area because there's no resources within this area. But this is the only way that I'm going to give you a loan to live is to be in this area. So now it's plagued with crime. It's plagued with low finances. It's plagued with many of other things because opportunities are cut off. And this is not, an opinion, but this is a lot of laws written into the Constitution within
Unfortunately.
like, unfortunately, yeah, yeah. That's why I like sociology because I never learned about those things. And then Dr. Stolting, who was our sociology professor, she started breaking it down. I said, oh, I like this. Learning something I didn't know. Yeah.
Is the leaf blower still there? Yep. It is still there.
I mean, if you want to listen, they're right outside my window.
Hey, the leaves got to be blowed, I
Right.
guess.
Somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
In time for the rain tonight.
Oh.
Oh, that's good. um, well, I was wondering, do you have anything you'd like to ask us about anything for this episode?
If I knew I could ask questions, I would have wrote a ton of them down and just started rattling them off. But nobody told me I could ask questions.
Hey, it was in the document that I sent you. I said,
It
"Do you have
was.
any questions?" It was, yeah,
Ah,
right at the bottom. So,
see, you put it at the bottom. But no, I
yeah,
could
I
come.
did.
I could think of one right now. What does the population look like when it comes to black or black people? I guess you could say, or even other people such as Hispanic people or Asian people when it comes to the Netherlands, And Leah, I know that you have spent time in Australia. What does the demographics look like? Just out of curiosity.
You go ahead, Leah.
Um, it very much varies depending upon where you are in the country. For us, though, it's a lot of Asians that have come across um, from either South China, China, in those different countries. That's probably the majority of. We got a few South Africans on the West Coast that immigrated, but majority of them will be some descent of Asians. As like our is in some cities they actually far outweigh the Caucasian in terms of population.
For us, it is. I feel like percentage wise, it would be similar as in the United States, where it comes to majority is Caucasian, and then the minority is, yeah, the minority. But I have to say, in the recent years, we have had people from all over just for work and school. Um, but the actual population consists a lot of like pure Dutch, I guess. And then people who are refugees from Iran, Iraq, Morocco, and then that's generational, where it's like their grandparents or parents, they fled and they were born in the Netherlands, so they're also true Dutch citizens, but they have a background in Africa or Eastern European countries. But I would say percentage wise, it's kind of divided similar as to the US.
Okay.
And also when it comes to crime dividing, it's the same as in the US, where it's like, I think the US is like 4% of the population is African American, but in the prison populations, it's at least like, I don't know, a bizarre
It
amount.
the census tells us that black people make up, I think it's between 13 to 14%, but then we make up, I want to say, I know it's over 50%. I want to say it's 55 to 60% of the prison population.
Okay.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, I was I was thinking about a different
No, but
term.
we're on the same. We're on the
Yeah,
same thought. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like it's a very big difference in like the how it's spread within the population itself and in the prison system. And I feel like it's pretty similar here, where it's like you see a lot of minority in prisons for the same reasons as in the United States, unfortunately.
Okay. Now I teased you about this when we were still in school at Lindenwood. How do they do Schwarzer Pete now? Am I saying it correctly?
Doing what?
Is it Schwarzer Pita? What is it? How do you say it?
I have no clue what you're
Yes, you
trying to
you know
say.
it because we spoke about it before. It was like Schwarzer. If I Google it, it's going to pop up.
Oh, Zwarte Piet. Yeah. 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 So there have been definitely some changes over the years where it's not no longer Zwarte Piet
Okay.
because of racism and whatnot. Um, but it's now, and I'm gonna find a translation because I don't know how that is in English.
Was I saying it wrong or was I saying it correctly?
No, you were saying it correctly. It was
Okay.
just your American way of saying it that caught me off guard. Um, so you know how when you go down a chimney, there's a lot of soot.
Hmm.
Yeah, so they call it basically a like a soot sweep
Okay.
peat. So instead of the black peat, it's the soot
Mhm.
peat.
Okay.
Um, and then for some reason, there's also orange ones and purple ones. So they've some have
Yeah.
come up with different colors too.
They gotten a bit
Um,
creative.
yeah, but it's I don't know. It's been a tradition for so many years, um, and we never, at least from where I was standing when I was a child, I
Mm-hmm.
never saw the Zwarte Piet as someone who was less than me or my mom or dad. It was always just, oh, he's, the help for Mr. Sinterklaas. But never in like a way of, oh no, he needs to help him. He's being, held captive or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, for us as children, it was just an innocent thing.
Yeah.
But
I
I
wanted to mess with
understand.
you. Yeah, I wanted to mess
No,
with
but I
you.
understand because if you read the history of it, it very comes down to that slavery piece,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and that is something that is wrong with what happened. But everybody's got their things.
Very much so. Everybody has their room for improvement. I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah.
Everybody. Everybody. Do you have any other questions for me?
Well, I was wondering, um, since you've studied and all, what is something that you've noticed has improved or still can use a lot of improvement when it comes to, representing the black population within the American population?
Yeah. Sometimes I have to look at things individually when it comes to improvement because sometimes we say, oh, black people now, you look at Oprah's or you look at Obama's and you look at, various figures and you say, oh, black people are doing much better. But the reality of it is, if it's just one or two, you have a few, for lack of a better term, you have a few tokens, you have just a few doing
Yeah.
it, but not many. I think it's still a reflection because it's nothing to, and we've seen this, just take it away from race for a minute. We've seen governments who are larger go into another country and then raise up a puppet in one country and say, yeah, yeah, you have your own leader right here. But this leader is really backed and really raised up by another country who does not desire the other country any good. So sometimes that can be the case with black people being held up as a prop to say, look, 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 you have one, but are they really organically being pushed up to the top, or is there a force underneath them pushing them up for an agenda? So sometimes I have to look at the improvements case by case. In my humble opinion,
Hmm.
I'm not no big professor or nothing like that. I'm just Robby thinking. So I mean, but there has been some improvement, but I think that ultimately the biggest improvement that can be held is laws changing, such as in the Constitution. We're still talking about black people as three-fifths of a human being. Just very small things that that's not small. I want to repeat that. Very
No.
large things that we do make small. I'll say that
Yeah.
that should be changed because we're talking about the base of America, which is supposedly the Constitution, but it says things like that. So I think the revision of the systems and really, my humble opinion, maybe a recreation of certain systems would be very, very important for the improvement. If we really want to see not only black people, but we're talking about many of the Hispanics who are moving over here, many of the
Hmm.
Asians who are migrating over here, many of those who are actually from African nations coming over here. So, if you really want to see the improvement of all these different racial groups coming together and doing better, I think we have to look at the laws. I think that's the biggest improvement that could be had.
So that is where you would say this is where we as a country can improve the most, and is just by fixing the constitution and laws that we have set in place right now.
I would say it's more than that, but that would be a good start.
Yeah, it's, of course it is more,
Yeah.
but yeah, you gotta start somewhere to make a change, I feel
Yeah,
like.
you gotta start somewhere, and it starts with what you all invited me to do, humble little old Robbie to come do and just speak briefly about it and kind of bring some awareness
Yeah.
or maybe some things that people simply just didn't know. That I
Yeah.
think it begins with that is the at least the awareness piece, because then it takes away the hey I didn't know, yeah, but that's what it's for. We study knowledge to share it, not to keep it for ourselves.
Exactly, and I feel like with every culture there are certain stereotypes, and some stereotypes can be good and others definitely not. And I feel like, when it comes to the black population, there are definitely some very negative stereotypes that need to be tackled. because they're
Absolutely.
just not true.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've had people tell me at Lindenwood, in fact, oh, you speak well. And a lot of people think that's a compliment, but they don't, candidly, they don't tell white people, hey, you speak well, because the thought process
It's
automatically,
expected.
exactly, it's expected that you're going to speak well. But for,
Yeah.
he speaks well. I didn't expect him to speak well. Why didn't you expect me to speak well?
He's such a
So,
polite man.
right, he's such a gentleman. I like him. Backhanded comments, almost, really. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No. But yeah, thank you for sharing some of your insights.
Absolutely.
As I can never understand fully like how it is for, you know, the other person. So
Yeah.
I
But
appreciate
I
you.
I appreciate you inviting me on. You and Leah, I appreciate it. I certainly do, and I've enjoyed my time. Certainly have enjoyed my time.
Good. I am glad we have. I mean, I think Leah too, but we have enjoyed it for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I learned some new things about the Black history that I didn't know before this call. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And thank you for this bio. I think I'm going to have to take that bio that you gave me. And next time somebody asks me for a bio, I'll say, oh, ho, ho. I'm not going to write my own. I'm going to use this one that Mars had created for me because it's so beautiful. I said, dang, man, she made me look so good.
Hey, it's who you are. I just used the words to describe you, who
Yeah,
you actually are. And you are a very inspirational individual, I would say, and people should follow your lead because you're a good leader.
thank you, thank you. I try my best. I try my best.
All
Well,
right, and then anyone else have like anything else they want to talk about?
well, I do something that is not Black History related. We are talking this month about self improvement and self growth in general. And what is something that you have focused on in the past 6 months to better yourself or feel more comfortable with yourself?
That is a beautiful, beautiful topic. And the first thing that comes to mind is truly a self evaluation, a true, transparent self evaluation, an honest one, and which I've had to do. You listed within the last 6 months I had to do. Because many of times we go through life and then we'll have bumps in the road or we'll have issues with people, and we're very likely to point the finger and say, look what this person did, look what this person did. But I've heard, various psychologists, I don't know if I want to say psychologists, but I've heard people who I respect say that usually, typically, what you find wrong within another person, it's a reflection of what's already within you, and you don't like what is within you, but since that other person is showing that attribute, it gives you the ability to point the finger and say, look, 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 this person is
Mm-hmm.
awful because of that. But it's really something within you that's hidden that you don't want to address. So now you can throw a rock at somebody else instead of throwing it at yourself. So, truthfully, that self evaluation and honesty, especially when it comes to relationships. And when I say relationships, I'm not talking about just romantic, but platonic friendships, mother to father, father to brother, or however the case may be. You
Mm-hmm.
got to look at all of those relationships and see how are they structured. Okay, what did this person do? But after that, really look at what did I do? What can I do better within my relationships? And sometimes you can ask a person, especially it's probably more comfortable to ask if you have a romantic partner, what can I do that to better myself, or what don't you like, that I can
Yeah.
improve. But that would be
So, have you had to ask that question to someone recently?
oh yeah, man. It wasn't recent, but man, I had about 2 years ago I was dealing with a young lady and she told me something about myself. I said, man, that ain't true. But I tell you, with time, and so time shows everything. Because
Mm-hmm.
within the last 6 months, then it dawned on me exactly what she meant when she said that. And now I'll even tell you what she told me. She said, "You're not emotional enough." And what that meant was that I'm not expressive within my emotions. And that's what it took me a while to fully understand. Because for me, I think a thing and I do a thing. So that's the way I feel. If I like you, then I'm doing something. It's not necessarily, I don't have to say it. For me,
Mm-hmm.
what I've learned is for most people, they want to hear you being expressive verbally and then see the action as well. And it dawned on me, I said, well, I don't do the expressive or verbal part. So that's what was a missing component that's very important. So it was things like that that I had to be honest with and be humble when I look at myself and say, hey, this is true. And you have to improve upon that. And it may be uncomfortable for you to improve upon it. But hey, listen, if you want to better yourself, that's the reality of what you have to do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. The journey of self improvement is very beautiful. It's painful, but
Hmm.
diamonds are made under pressure. Yeah.
There's this one country song, and it says, if pressure makes diamonds, why the hell am I still coal? And I was like, well, that, is
Yeah.
fitting, I guess,
Okay.
with
Yeah.
self improvement.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit different. Why am
It's
I
a little
so
bit
cold?
different, but
Yeah.
same,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah. Are you? Do you all have any books that you're reading in regards to the self improvement piece?
I am currently, yeah. Are you,
Okay.
Leah?
I'm actually almost done with one. The
Which one are
one
you reading?
I'm reading, the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People.
Seven
Oh,
habits of highly effective. I'm writing it down. So,
It's very, yeah, it's very, very interesting. Makes me very mad at my bosses that maybe they should read it.
and I'm currently reading a book that is called Brain Under Strain. I don't know if they sell it in the US. I'm not sure.
I haven't
okay.
found it.
Um, but if it does, I'll let you know. And this is a book that talks about how our brain have had to deal with so many stimuli the
Hmm.
last years and how we can balance it back to a normal, healthy brain while also having all the different external stressors and stuff.
Okay.
And it's basically a 10-week guide to have a more balanced mind.
Have you seen progression from reading the book?
I only started it 2 weeks ago,
Okay.
but I've definitely done some things, changes in my schedule to kind of make it easier for myself. Um,
She's had
that
multiple life crises after reading this book.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I've had plenty. Yeah, no, but like you said, self improvement is a very difficult process,
Hmm.
and Leah and I are planning to touch on this topic a lot more often in the next, I don't know, few weeks, I'd say.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so
Well, I'm definitely going to be listening in because self improvement is something I definitely enjoy listening to. You know, I don't know if you can see, if you heard the excitement in my voice when you brought it up, and I was able to talk about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that you write down the book recommendations, I love it.
yeah, absolutely, because it's a necessity for anybody. For anybody.
Yeah, and everybody goes through it, but at a different pace, and
Hmm.
you just got to listen to yourself and see where life takes you.
Yeah, yeah, and be
I feel
honest with
like
self. Be
that
honest.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
um, so for the people listening to this episode, if you like this episode, please, leave us a nice message or a review. Or if you didn't like it, you can also let us know, and share it with people if you want to, raise some awareness to self improvement or Black history, because both are highly important.
I couldn't
And
agree
with
more.
Yeah. And with that, thank you for joining us as we offer a glimpse into the world of true friendship, where even though worlds may seem apart, the connections remain strong.
Mm.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
until next time.
Until next time.